Let me ask you a question. What do you do when you read something that is exactly opposite of what you believe to be true? Do you just cast it off and say, well, it doesn't agree with what I believe, therefore it must be false? Or do you say, wow, I read this, it must be true, I must completely change what I believe? I'm Dr. Brett Scherer, the medical director at dietdoctor.com, and I had to face this recently with a study from Dr. Ethan Weiss's lab at UC San Francisco about time-restricted eating, where the media conclusions were time-restricted eating doesn't work. And we wrote about this and did a video about it. We can link to those below. But rather than go into the details, I wanted to talk also about this concept, about what do we do when something goes against our belief system? Well, hopefully we don't do either one of those examples I gave, right? They're rather extreme. You shouldn't just completely abandon what you believe if you have good reason to believe it just because one thing comes out to say the opposite. And you shouldn't also just ignore anything that is against what you believe simply because it's against what you believe, right? Instead, every claim, every headline, every study needs a more thorough dissection about what is this about, and it requires sort of introspection about why do I believe what I believe? Is it simply bias? Is it simply because it's what I've been taught? Is it based on evidence? What's that level of evidence? And that's something we continually strive to do here at Diet Doctor is to call attention to these details so we can all kind of figure out what's quote unquote right and how strong our beliefs. It's rarely black and white, true or not true. It's usually sort of shades of gray of like how strongly can we believe in certain concepts. So a perfect example, which I brought up in the post I wrote, is hormone replacement therapy. I mean, when I was in medical school and residency, it was sort of like as this whole tide was shifting, that the observational data showed that women who took hormone replacement therapy had fewer heart attacks, had better heart health, so to speak. So therefore, we were giving out hormone replacement prescriptions to improve heart health. But then the randomized controlled trial came, which showed actually the women who were randomized to the hormone replacement therapy had more vascular events, more heart attacks, more blood clots. So then a lot of the reaction was, oh my God, hormone replacement therapy is dangerous for heart and shouldn't be given to anybody. Despite other potential benefits, we shouldn't give it to anybody because it's dangerous. Well, that was likely backpedaling too far. And what really needed to happen was a more nuanced discussion, which eventually, of course, did happen, about, well, this was one type of hormone replacement therapy. It was oral, it's metabolized in the liver, it has a certain effect. It was one basically brand of it. If you break down the study, women who were further out from menopause had worse outcomes. Women who were started on hormone replacement therapy soon after menopause did not have worse outcomes. So there were details. The point is there were details. So it wasn't just abandon everything we thought because of this randomized controlled trial, but it was let's examine the details of this randomized controlled trial so we can understand the nuance. Same thing with with the time-restricted eating paper, that you don't just throw out time-restricted eating, but you have to analyze it more carefully. And there are things we can learn from it. And actually, Peter Attia gave a very good analysis on it, talking about his 3 levers about what you eat, when you eat, and how much you eat. And if you're not going to focus on the what or the how much, then if you're only focusing on the when, it's going to take a lot more strenuous change in the when to see a difference. And that's sort of what Dr. Weiss's study looked at, only pulling that one lever. But if you're focusing on all 3, then maybe, theoretically, then smaller increments are going to still see some benefit. So we have to learn these details. So from Dr. Weiss's study, we can conclude that if all you do is change the timing of what you eat a little bit and don't reduce your calories at all, and don't focus on the quality of the food you eat, okay, maybe that's not sufficient. So the food we eat matters. How much of the food we eat matters. The quality matters, and the timing matters. And putting them together in a package matters, right? So one study didn't analyze all those. So even though the headlines and the study conclusions were against what I believe on time-restricted eating, it made me reassess why I believe the things I do about time-restricted eating and what are the details that make a difference in how it could work. And when ignoring those details, how maybe it doesn't work. So it was a helpful lesson for me. I hope it's a helpful lesson for you and walking through sort of the thought process, because we all need to admit we can be wrong, right? And that's a big problem with nutrition and with medicine, that too many of us can't be introspective enough to say that maybe we're wrong. So it's something I'm continually trying to work on, and I hopefully will continue to get better on, and I hope we all can work on and get better on. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.